Hi everyone, welcome to our class today, which we shall be talking about C programming. Apart from C, there are other languages actually, but our focus here is on the C programming aspect, and we'll just be looking at the introduction to the language. That means there is more to it. Now, in order to understand C and to appreciate it, it's good to look at it from the point of history. Now, in 1972, while working at AT&T Bell's laboratory, the man Dennis Ritchie discovered that another language could be built from B. B happened to be the language in existence by that time. So he did some modification to B, and from there, C came about. So the language was so wonderful because it was an advancement. So what B could not do, and other languages such as Pascal, like Fortran, like COBOL, could not do, C came to do it. And that is how powerful C is. Now, what makes C to be different, to be powerful than other languages in existence? Before now, all programming languages are done using a machine oriented. That means for you to program, you need to understand machine language. So C came and broke the deadlock. It gave programmers the ability to take programming to the next level, making it higher for human beings to code. That means human beings understand coding in human using human understandable languages. So initially, programmers thought that C is a fully high-level language, but with time, it was discovered that it still have some element of the low-level language, and then still have some element of the high-level language. So it's just somewhere in between. So they call it a mid-level language. So the C language is a mid-level language because it's neither low-level nor high-level. It's just somewhere in between. That is how unique C is. So if you're learning C, you're learning a part of machine language and a part of high-level language. Now, what makes C very useful to programmers? The following were the uses of C as a language that we've come to discover over time. In database design, C happens to find expression. Now, since computers understand basically machine languages, that means, and we human beings understand human languages. So there is need for translators that will translate this high-level language, which is the human language, into machine language. So C happened to be that language that could be used to build compilers and interpreters, which are used as translators to translate high-level language to a lower-level language for the CPU to understand. Now, because of its nature also, operating systems that serves as the basis for all software are built using C. It's comfortable to build them using C. What about drivers that runs on our networks? They are also, when it comes to developing them, C is also resourceful. Word processors such as Notepad that are used for typing and editing Word documents are also product of C. So C is used in developing such word processors. Now, apart from uses, there are other advantages that C serves to us. The first one is subsequent languages that came after C, such as C++ and Java, found their building block on C. They still have the C syntax. Then Because of its nature, we could write programs that could be transferred from one device to another. Very, very portable is the language C. Another thing is about the language is debugging and testing is very, very possible. But as powerful as C is, it has some limitations, some disadvantages. The very first and the most pronounced among them is that C does not support object-oriented programming. So that means the user has so much limitation on using his data. So the programmer cannot fully utilize the data. In terms of naming classes, we cannot name subclasses within a class easily in C. So it doesn't support namespaces fully. Other ones are just there. Now, in order to set up my C environment, there are, as a programmer, whether I'm a beginner or I'm an expert, I need to be conversant with two things. The first is a text editor, and the second one is a C compiler. The text editor is the program that I will use to type or to code the C program. An example is the Notepad, where the C compiler is the translator that will translate what I've typed as my raw file into something the CPU can understand, into a machine understandable code. So the editor is what I used to type, and then the compiler is what will translate what I've typed into a CPU understandable code so that the CPU can understand it. So C is a compiled language. Other languages are interpretable. For C is compiled. Very, very important. Very, very important. C is compiled, while other languages such as BASIC are interpreted. Applications of C in the real world. Now, most operating systems that are in existence today, such as Windows and Unix, which are widely used, are actually products of C. So we use C to build them. Embedded systems like the drivers that runs on that link our hardware and our software are also works of C. Graphical user interface, for example, Adobe Photoshop that is used for graphics, is also built using C. What about web browsers that we use for browsing? They are also C oriented. So as we can see, C is a very powerful language for beginners and for professionals. Thank you.